All right, welcome back to the Fit for Life podcast. What's going on, Brooks?
Not much. Not much.
Dude, you said you were gonna. We talked about this.
I know.
You said you
And it,
got to get better at not
it's
saying not
it's
much
like
and throw.
it's like a immediate react. Even as that came out of my mouth, I was like, "Damn it, I'm doing that
Yeah,
again."
let's try again. What's going on, Brooks?
I'm pissed off this morning.
Why are you pissed off?
I'm frustrated because I was just telling you right before this, like reflections on the coaching journey and social media and shame. I'm pissed off at shame, I think.
Shame from other coaches.
Shame shaming other people, no matter who you are, on social
Yeah,
media and acting like you're better than other people because you've figured something out that they maybe haven't yet.
social media's gotten really weird. I don't know if you felt that, like especially over the past year,
Yeah.
like more so than even before.
It's just the weirdest it's the weirdest thing in general because of what it rewards and what gets the loudest. Because
Yeah.
I think in any time, the the most impressive, intelligent, like experts I know that I like to learn from are not loud on social media. I think the
Mhm.
more you learn about anything, the quieter you become about strong opinions, and that's not what gets views, and hence the shit show that it is.
You know what's super interesting too is something like I think because Instagram has become much more pay to play, it's a lot of sponsored posts now. It is all everyone's reach is down, everyone's views are down. It's become so much more saturated, so it's harder to stand out. And what gets views, what gets attention is like saying controversial shit, right? And I think a lot of people have what I'm noticing based on content I've seen recently is that a lot of coaches and even like very prominent coaches with a large following, large businesses, I think all got kind of tangled into like trying to figure out why is my views down? Why is my reach down? Why are my clients down this past year? And I think a lot of people end up doing a lot of content that they don't necessarily feel passionate about or believe in. And I'm seeing that now kind of come to fruition of like I've seen more and more posts lately of people being like, I gotta come clean. My mental health hasn't been the greatest over the last year, or they're like, hey, I've seen like Eric Roberts and Joey Munoz, I've seen in the past week around how they're like, I'm not gonna really talk about fat loss anymore
Mm.
because they're like I did it for so long, but like that's just not the only thing I care about. And it's like I totally understand that because it is what resonates the most online. It is 100% what will get you the most views.
Mhm.
But like it gets tiring when you're like there's so much more out there that I want to talk about. And so like I think that's just why I'm saying all this is because I think a lot of people post online just for the numbers and the metrics, and we don't really see what's actually going on behind the scenes of like what they actually believe, how their mental health is from trying to chase all this stuff online. And like I think Instagram and social media in general has become this curated version of like whatever the algorithm wants rather than what coaches actually believe is best for people.
I think that's an amplification of the human social behavior in general. If you don't have a strong internal compass of what's important to you and you kind of outsource approval, validation, whatever it may be in your own life or beliefs or whatever, it's all of a sudden everybody's just performing and
Mm-hmm.
looking for external cues of, is this good? Is this bad? Is this what I want to be doing? Am I, and
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a large internal journey for me is recognizing that
Yeah.
need, but
Same.
then social media just quadruples down on it because
Yeah.
it's literally, it's just crazy, man. Like I know we talk about it a lot, And you've really helped me start to reorient to how much more meaningful it is to get that message or comment about how helpful something is instead of, oh, this got X amount of likes. But it is so addicting.
It's yeah, it's I think Syed has always referred to as like you're chasing monopoly money when
Yeah.
you're like looking for followers and likes. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's I mean, like, yeah, it feels good in the moment, but what the hell does it actually mean
Right.
in the long run, right? Like, isn't the whole point we're supposed to be on there is to help people, right?
Right.
And so it's like when we kind of move away from that, I think that's why we end up feeling like, yeah, some of these like it feels good when you get a viral post, but then it's like, now what? You know,
Mhm.
like that's not nearly as good as putting out a piece of content that maybe doesn't get as many likes, you know, or doesn't go viral, but you get comments that are people like, thank you, I really needed to hear this today. Like that is those are the posts that really matter.
Mhm.
Um, and it's yeah, I mean this kind of ties into the conversation you want to have today, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, social media and stress probably couple together in a lot of people's minds,
Yeah.
and we're aware of it. Like, I was just having this conversation with my brother-in-law. We were both saying how he's like, dude, I deleted Instagram for 6 months last year. And here I am scrolling Instagram like crazy again. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, same thing. I had it cut off after 7 or 8 p.m. for a large majority of last year with no override, like on the app I use. And I just turned the override back on, and I just every night have been,
Dude, it is like it's a straight up like addiction,
yeah.
honestly. Like it like a whether it's like a chemical addiction, you know, like a drug or just like a dopamine, you know, hijacking, but it's totally the amount of times that I just randomly pick up my phone like without even thinking about it and immediately go like my problem is I go to X, which is the worst, like the worst social media out there. It is so awful, the shit that's on there. But I go there because I want to see like random Chicago Bears stuff. Like honestly, that's why I go on there, which is not even smart because it's just random people giving terrible opinions that don't know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
And half of them are probably like high schoolers. They're just like talk shit to each other.
Yeah.
And then I scroll it and then I see something and it pisses me off. And then they and then I just like go through the comments and that pisses me off. And then I go and then I scroll through X and I see some other crazy like either like political stuff or just like random violent stuff or racist stuff because like that's what that platform is filled now with. And then I get pissed off and then I get off after like 2 minutes. I'm like, why did I just go on there again? But then I do it again in like an hour.
Dude, there's been studies now that are coming out, and I don't think anyone would see the results of those studies and be like, that's crazy. Your mental health improves by 70% if you delete social media from your phone for a month. I don't know if that's a number, but
Yeah,
it's a
there was
huge.
just like a TikTok study that came out, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And it's massive, which it's like, yeah, duh. What I mean, you just think about where we were getting dopamine 500 years ago, or even like 100 years ago. You know, sex, fruit, honey,
Hmm.
Mhm. uh, social interaction, working your job. And those are like probably plus 10, plus 20, plus 100. And you get them far and few between. You see an attractive person of the other sex, like, a couple times a day. You, like I said, you find honey every once in a while. That's, plus whatever. And then we literally have access to plus 1 million compared to those things on
Yeah.
our phone every second of every day. It's, it burns out the signal, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's I think the best way I've heard that described is like like stress because which by the way, we're talking about stress today.
Yeah, yeah. But
That we should probably clarify that. But like, I think stress in general is a very interesting thing because some of it is good for us, right? Like we know that there are good forms of stress and there's bad forms of stress, and more importantly than that is the level of consistent stress that you're putting on your body. Like having stress in short bursts actually makes you stronger in the long run, right? Like that's what working out is. Working out is essentially putting stress in your body, and your body then adapts to it and gets stronger, right? But the problem comes when we have consistent stress put on us all the time. And in the past, like going back to our ancestors, it was exactly that, right? Like little bursts of really extreme stress, right? Of either feeling like your life is threatened because you just heard something in the bushes, right? Or seeing some kind of animal that you need to for dinner tonight, right? Like that cortisol rush would be super important because it would save your life. Now, we don't have that type of a regular gigantic threat. But what we have now is like this lower lower wave of consistent low grade stress
mhm.
that's going on. And I think that's kind of like it's overriding everything that we understand. And I think a lot of that is driven by just like our access to social media and all this shit that we are seeing on a daily basis that doesn't really impact our day-to-day lives.
Yes. I think, and a big reason I wanted to talk about this is because of how much tension I feel there is on people talking about stress on social media. Because I think it can very quickly just become another stressor to learn about your stress. Everyone's saying stress is destroying your cortisol. It's not helpful. It's such a large, when we don't define things and we don't break it down, like I I think it'd be really helpful to just talk through how we even start to, work in things around it at all. Because
Yeah.
when it's just this, I'm stressed, that's a massive global theme of your life that you have no control. Like it's hard to take action on
Did
it.
you see something that sparked all this? Like, was there a post or something that made you
I don't remember. Probably. It's probably scrolling and it thought of it. Well, I think it's so I'm going through this mindset program, and a big part of it is the breath. And I've been bringing more conscious awareness to, because the mornings are kind of shot with the baby, and I love sitting down and meditating for 20 minutes. I haven't done it in a while. And what I've found myself coming back to is my breath as my
Mm,
anchor in the day, because you can do it anywhere. So I think that's why it's top of mind. And then it's just made me think about all the things I've seen and how many you know what it probably is the conversations I've been having with especially women that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are so convinced that they need to go get their cortisol blood tested
mm.
and that it's this big thing. And so I think before we even talk more specifics, we should highlight that your perception of stress and how it impacts you is a massive contributor to how it actually impacts you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So both of us have been through some training on growth mindsets versus fixed mindsets, and a big part of that is the way you view stress. Do you view it as
Mhm.
something that helps you get stronger, or do you view it as something that holds you back? And if you view it as something that holds you back, it's going to hold you back. And and then you're being told you need, like you're being yelled at by a 20-year-old influencer who has no kids and no real job about how you need to just manage your stress better. And it's like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
like I have to go to work and I have to take care of I don't have a second to breathe in my day. I just need to manage my stress. I know it's probably like, if you say you need to do something, you're probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Does that spark anything? Because I mean, I think we could maybe just define, what people are referring to when they talk about stress impacting your health and fitness. But before we go there, does that anything come up for you there that I just rambled about?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I think to your point, stress is like we look at it as something that it cripples us, right? And it's like I am so stressed. And but to me, stress, like if we reframe it and we look at it as stress is something that is like, again, going back to why do we feel stressed? It's the same as any quote unquote negative emotion is there for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like our body, we've evolved with it for reasons that help us survive. And stress in general, like cortisol, like when people talk about, oh, cortisol, it spikes your cortisol, et cetera. Like I think we need to have the understanding that number one, cortisol spikes are normal. Like that means your body's working. That's supposed to happen. We wake up every morning with spiked cortisol. And then what should happen is throughout the day, your cortisol decreases, decreases, decreases. That's why in the morning, you feel the most amped up, like the most adrenaline kind of feeling. And that's why at night, you feel more mellow, right? Like it's literally you're taking you through the circadian rhythm of feeling like during the day, you're ready to go, you're ready to hunt, you're ready to conquer the day, right? And at night, it's time to wind down and it's time to relax. And so like that feeling that people get at night where it's like, oh, I just feel like I need to knock out this project at work at 9 p.m. But like I just like have no energy. It's like, yeah, that's how you're designed to be, you know? So like I think number one is understanding that stress is not it's not like cortisol is not a bad thing. Without it, you would die. Stress is not a bad thing. Without it, you wouldn't grow, right? It's this idea that like why is there an overload of stress, right? And that to me is also not a I'm doing everything wrong. I'm so stressed. I can't handle anything. It's more to me just like it's a signal. It's a signal to slow down and to think through like, well, why am I so stressed all the time? Right. And I think that if we kind of talk through those things and look at it at that lens, then I think it's going to be much easier to actually find a real tactical solution than to your point of just being like, I just need to not be so stressed, which doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, that makes it worse. 100%.
100%.
Yeah, and that point about the cortisol too, like you said, it literally is what wakes your body up in the morning. It's and there's a lot of content out there about your cortisol spiking because of XYZ, and this is linked to excess belly fat. This is a very common guru influencer thing that they trick you with. Acute changes in things in your body do not necessarily mean anything about long-term chronic changes in your body. So
Yeah.
when we see increased cortisol chronically all day because people are on medications, immunosuppressive medications, or is it Graves' disease or something like that that causes that as well? Or you really are running at extreme, levels of intensity of sympathetic fight or flight, high heart rate, just high, those things. Yeah, we see that, but that's not having a cup of coffee doesn't do that. It's,
Right.
exercise makes your blood pressure go up. So don't exercise. That's what that's saying.
Right.
So it's normal. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, and that's another buzzword, right? I just said sympathetic. So your nervous system, right? Sympathetic, fight or flight versus parasympathetic rest and digest. That's what people are most familiar with. And we can burn out, fight or flight is useful, and it's not meant to be what we use all the time. That's higher heart rate, higher breathing rate. And if we run at that high level all the time, it leads to a crash. Like, that's not going to feel great. So I think just defining those, because at first it's, we're bringing our stress down. Well, what does that even mean? I think the most practical explanation is just bringing ourselves down a little bit throughout the day, throughout work, throughout activities in the day, just building a little bit more space into whatever you're doing. And that might not mean doing anything differently,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and I think the hardest thing about that is when you feel like you're in a perpetual state of stress, right? When you're like, I'm just so stressed right now, and it's just like a crazy time of year. I think it's like you are inherently kind of stuck in that fight or flight mode
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing that. Um, and it's very easy to convince ourselves that there is no time. There is no time to slow down. There is no time to, because like I have so many things I need to do. And I think like one of like as the hardest thing in this situation, but probably the most important thing is to force yourself to take a step back, regardless of like all these things in your plate, all these things in your like. I get it. I totally get it. Trust me. It is like we got little kids. We've got the holidays. I've got a full time job on top of this. Like I get it. Like it is crazy right now. But I would say that it's so it's even more important then to take some time and actually think about this, because if you don't, you're gonna continue going down that road. You're gonna continue in that fight or flight mode, and it's gonna kind of like one of the biggest conversations I always have with clients, and one of the biggest conversations I have with my wife, because we get into these periods, right, where it's like both of us are just super stressed. Then it's like you can tell because the house is quieter, right? Like mornings just we're kind of scrambling. We get home from work and it's just like, all right, like I'll work on dinner, and then like communication is lower. Like you can kind of just tell, right? And one of the things that we introduced was, hey, what like because the other thing is we have a 5-month-old baby, so like we're and both of us are back at work, so we're literally figuring out how to navigate this stage of life, um because it's only going to get harder when she's running around and talking back to us, and then we have more kids running around, right? So like trying to figure out a system that works now. And so we said, okay, what if we do like an actual weekly house meeting where we force ourselves to take a step back, right? And to make it like something that we actually do, because it's very easy to say let's do this, and then like you get to Wednesday night, and then it's like, oh, I'm so tired. um we thought about like when are we most likely to actually have the energy to do this. And so we said, how about Sunday mornings before football starts, before all that, the craziness, like let's go out for breakfast, right? Let's make it enjoyable, something we look forward to. Let's go out for breakfast, and then at breakfast, the goal is we're going to say, what went well last week? Was there anything that we did, like communication wise, organization wise, routine wise, that worked really well? What was what did not like what was not good, right? Like something that we need to address for this week. What do we have coming up this week? Like are there any parties, events, work outings, things like that, doctor's appointments, to make sure we're just like on the same page and nothing like comes up last minute, you know? Um, and then lastly, which I think is the most important part, is what are the things that are currently stressing you out? And what we do with all this then is, number one, just like I think so much of stress is just getting shit out of your head, because when it seems like I have all these things I have to do and I keep putting everything off, the thought of putting these things off starts making you feel guilty, starts making you feel ashamed, starts being like, oh my God, like now there's just another thing I have to do. But then like we literally made a to-do list, like a family to-do list, and it's like 5 things
Mm-hmm.
that are stressing us out. And then you look at the list and you're like, that takes 4 minutes. That takes 5 minutes. Right. Like you're like, I get it because when that's all in my head and it's like these 5 things and they just like, you just keep like you're randomly doing something, then you're like, oh, I still haven't scheduled that doctor's appointment. I still haven't scheduled, like it like is constant little like reminders of, oh my God, you're still not doing all this that you said you're going to be doing. But then when you lay it out, you're like, it's really not that many things, you know? And then you can kind of go through and be like, okay, let's knock this out, right? Like who's going to own it? What do we need? What do we actually need to do this week? And so that I think is a really important thing is number one, get it out of your head. Like get it out, like written out on a piece of paper, written out in a note app or whatever it is, like it has to get out of your head. Like because the second that you do that, it's going to become so much more of just like this isn't that bad, regardless of what it is. Like it
Yeah.
might actually be a really stressful thing that might take some time. It'll still feel better than whatever it feels like in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can go through and do a filter process. Number one, what is causing you stress that you have to do? Right. And like, sucks, but we got to do it. Right. Like, that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to have to find a time to go to the dentist if my 6 month is around Christmas time, but I got to do it. Like that's just, okay. They got to do that. Number two, what is causing you stress, but you actually enjoy doing? Right. Like if there's, going to see friends downtown or something, like going like something that's like, oh, we have this party coming up, but then when you go and do it, you're like, that was great, like I'm very happy I did that, you know and then number three, which is the most important one, what is causing you stress that you think you have to do that you don't, and just take that right off the plate.
Yeah.
Right, like because a lot of things we make up in our head that's like a to do. But then when you slow down and you think about like, wait, why am I even doing that? Or like, why did I even, why, like maybe I used to have to do that. I used to thought, but no one actually cares about it now. So like, just again, like having some kind of organization around your thoughts in general, I think makes so much of this more palatable.
It's really funny that you just said a lot of what you just said because this, and we'll have to, well, I mean, I'm going to explain. Actually, I'm going to add one step in there. The dentist thing, switch that have to like, okay, I understand that a lot of these things, yeah, you are going to, like, you basically have to, but you could just not go to, I think reminding yourself that, because going from I can't keep living like this to I can keep living like this,
Mm,
you immediately start to be like, all right, this is what we're working with here. This is the consequence, because then it becomes that choice. All right, that's the consequence if I don't do this.
mm,
Am I all right with that?
mm-hmm.
Because then at least you're making the choice. You switch from that have to or should to a, well, do we need to, I imagine for you, Herman, like your dental hygiene is an important part of your health, and but it allows you to flip that quick to,
Right. I could choose to not go to
yeah,
the dentist ever if I really didn't want to, and I
right,
really did not care about my dental hygiene. It is a choice.
yeah, and I think, and to me in the past, those types of things have felt silly, but at the same time, all of a sudden you really start to figure out who it's important to. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these things we just have always operated that way. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I have to, I have to. Like, I haven't even questioned who's making you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's really yourself. But at least then it can be, okay, why
Well,
is,
to that point though, is it? Right? Like, is it yourself or is it some former figure, like a
yes,
parent or a teacher or a coach or a terrible friend, someone who always got on you when you didn't do something and you still hear that voice in your head?
exactly. Right. But yeah, so it's like both. So it's in my process of this, the first realization was that it was me. It's me that's putting this pressure on me.
Mhm.
And then that led me to, well, who is that taking place of? What,
Mhm.
so, but the reason I was saying it's funny you say all that because and we'll have to do another episode on the enlifted training I'm doing and go deeper into it. But that's the whole premise of this work. It's called story work. It's getting it out of your head. Our thoughts create the words and the thoughts in our head create our reality. It's an ongoing story of who we are, what we're doing, and what's going on. And the most destructive patterns we have in our life that keep showing up stem usually from a few paragraphs. Like that's it. And this is kind of on a bigger scale, like more macro mindset things that are showing up in your life and self-sabotage. But what you were just saying is it's really a list of 6 things that just isn't out of your head and you keep remembering and bouncing them around. And like you said, you write them down and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can have all of this done in 30 minutes type of a thing.
Mhm.
So getting it out, it externalizes it and it gives you distance from it and really allows you to see it for what it is and start, working with it. If something can be done with it, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so I love how you said the Sunday morning thing because Mel and I started doing that last year, once a month Sunday breakfast and reviewing the previous month's finances. And
Yeah.
just scheduling that in has been huge.
Mhm.
Um,
Do
but
you
okay.
do
Oh,
you do you guys like is this something that you look forward to now?
yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
both love breakfast, going out for breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like to that point, which this is like a side note, any habit that you're like, I really want to start doing this, right? Like I think this is gonna be a positive influence on my life. But it's also kind of like working out, right? Is another example but it's also like the thought of it is painful to get started when you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Coupling that habit coupling, right? Coupling that up with something that you already love
Yeah.
makes it so much easier. So like another example would be I really want to start walking more. I really want to start using my walking pad, but I hate walking indoors. Like I hear
Mhm.
that a lot. Well, I've had clients who are like, you know what I'm gonna do? I have a show that I really want to watch, or I have a podcast I really want to listen to, and I'm not going to listen to it until I am walking. Like that is my show for walking specifically, so that they look forward to it, right? Like,
Heck
and I
yeah.
and I do the same thing. Like I have, my podcast that I listen to when I go for walks. And so like when I'm literally am going down, I'm like, all right, I gotta take the dog for a walk. I am thinking in my head, oh sweet, I get to like listen to that now.
Yeah, dude. There are so many times, I would say like 2 or 3 times a week, it's getting to that evening time and I'm kind of just dreading the walk because I'm tired. And I
Yeah.
remember the podcast I'm in the middle of, or one I
Yeah.
hit save on, or an audiobook I was wanting to check out. And I immediately am like, oh, let's go. I'm so
Yeah.
turn that on. Yeah.
Very
That's awesome.
underrated.
Yeah. Okay. So if we zoom out, I think the biggest thing here is number one, stress isn't bad. It's a signal, it's a sign, it's a clue. And then from there, using it as an opportunity to get curious. Because I think a big part of this too is at first you don't notice necessarily, the patterns that are leading to those moments. Uh, and that's what we help clients with a lot, is just help identify these patterns, right? Yeah, around their sleep, around their work, around their relationships, around things going on in their life, to help them tie those things together. And then, I mean, you just went through a great, I think that's a perfect process for overwhelm, you know? Uh, if you're overwhelmed, that's going to be a game changer. I, th- from there, I think, what if someone, it's not specific. It's not like, "Oh, I keep thinking of these things I have to do." I'm just I am stressed, and it's not necessarily, nothing's different right now. It's just work and kids and food and things like that. Do you have a first thing that you go to with a client who's they subjectively feel stressed? There's nothing they can pinpoint it to, but they're telling themselves they need to s chill out a little bit?
That's a hard one because what I would say is like again, it kind of goes back to we have to create some space to identify what is even causing the stress in the first place,
Yeah.
right? And like in many of these cases, you're trying to do too much.
Mhm.
Like you're trying to juggle all these things. Um, and I look, I get it. Again, there's responsibilities. Like the kids have to get fed, right? Like they have to get out the door and they have to have pants on. Like I totally understand that. Um, my question to that person would be, where is this like where what is causing the stress? Is it expectations you're setting for yourself? Right? Are these expectations that you're setting for yourself that are unrealistic? That all these things are going to be perfect? Are these expectations coming from a spouse? Right? Is there a spouse that's constantly getting on you about the things that are or resentment of a spouse because you're doing all these things and you wish your spouse was helping out more, because like I think identifying it is step one to understand what action is even needed. Like it could simply be, hey, because like I think of specific examples of clients. A lot of it is like this time of year. There's a lot of stuff going on at work. There's a lot of stuff with holiday parties. With sick kids. Like, and a lot of times it's like I have to do I haven't done my third workout for the week and it's stressing me out because I was supposed to do it yesterday. And then, like my kid got sick. And so like that didn't end up happening. And it's like, okay, what if you do 2 workouts a week right now? Like, what is that really the end of the world? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, what if you get 8,000 steps instead of 10,000? Like, do you think that's going to ruin all of your progress and results? So a lot of times it's like, it's thinking we have to do all of these things exactly how they are laid out in our head right now versus saying, can I just turn down the dial on some of these things a little bit? Not turn them off entirely. Like I still want to, it's kind of like how right now we gave all of our clients a challenge. We do a challenge every month with all of our clients. That's, sometimes it's like a protein goal. Sometimes it's like a step goal, right? And we try to really make it timely based on the time of year that we think is going to benefit people the most. And so for December, our challenge to all of our clients is BAMs. And when we say BAM, a BAM is your bare ass minimum. So that means like for a client, instead of saying I'm going to track all of my food, my bare ass minimum is I am going to get a piece of protein on all my plates. Like literally, like what is the bare minimum that like if I at least do this, it's not nothing. It's going to be helpful towards my goals. It's going to keep me on track and help me build some momentum. Like instead of saying I'm going to go do 10,000 steps every day, like I'm going to at least get out for a 20-minute walk. Right? Like that I think in itself is such a big piece of identifying where can I turn it down? Like, where am I doing too much? But then on the other piece of like, maybe it's not your plate, but maybe it's like more the expectations, right? The expectations you're building on yourself, or like if there's a conversation you need to have with your spouse, right? Because one, if it is your spouse is nagging you all the time, like having that conversation of, I am trying, like, here's the things I'm doing, like where, like, I need your help prioritizing these things because I'm feeling super stressed out about it, or vice versa. If you are having a resentment in your head because you're doing all these things and you're constantly looking at your spouse being like, why aren't you feeding the kids? Why aren't you, like having that conversation, right? Is super, super important because I think, like, again, when there's kids in the picture and there's work and everything, like it becomes super easy to think that we're just reading each other's mind. And that's rarely the case, right? Like whatever's in your head, your spouse, like you think that it's like, oh, they should know that I would want help with this, but like they're feeling the same thing, right? Like both ends are kind of like, I'm trying to juggle this with my marriage, with the kids, with work. Like, so I think again, it goes back to like, you need unbelievably clear communication and stop and not assume anything.
I think that point about your spouse is thinking the exact same thing about you is so important to keep in mind. And I've really been reminding myself of that lately. And Mal and I have been talking about it, openly too, is what is it? Recency bias, or I don't even know what it is. If the trash needs to go out 5 times a week and you each do, if the trash needs to go out 6 times a week and you each take it out 3 times, you most likely only saw your spouse do that one time. And you think you did more. And both people think
Yeah.
they did more because they were there and
Yeah.
they weren't there when the other person did it. So all of a sudden, we always just try to remind ourselves of that. But
And
eh,
there's a
y-
very big difference between like keeping score of who did we do this the exact amount of times equally
right,
versus intention,
right.
right? Because there might be something that you're like, I am doing this way more often than you are,
Yeah,
but it's not like the other person's intending that, right?
right.
It's just the way that the routine and everything is fallen. So if you have that conversation more times than not, the other person would be like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you felt that way. I thought that we just kind of were, I work on this, you work on that. If
Yeah,
that stresses you out, like I'm happy to split that up more. Like we just had that, like my wife would always give our daughter bath. She would always do bath time. And then like it was kind of like we had the conversation of, can you give her bath sometimes? I'm like, oh, I yes. Like I thought you just like enjoyed it. Honestly, like I didn't even realize that was like something that was a stress in your head. So like, and if it's a totally different thing where like you do bring this up and the other person just brushes you off, that's a whole different conversation.
right.
But like in I think the vast majority of the time there's probably good intentions. You're just not on the same page, which
Yeah,
happens all the time.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and it is funny to think about how much of stress or rumination in relationships or work relationships, whatever it may be, when you're assuming, you know,
Yeah.
did they say that to you? Or are you
Yes.
feeling like they're thinking that about you? Because if that's the case, you're the one doing it, back to what
Yeah.
we said earlier. It's you. That's you. Uh,
Mhm.
but okay, this conversation has been very interesting because I just asked you, what if there's nothing specific? But now, as I'm thinking through that, does stress really exist without a circumstance in your life that you're not accepting the way that it is right now?
Mm. Right. Like, okay, so I guess there's like, one, anxiety does exist, right? So, like, in terms of clinically being diagnosed with s high anxiety, right? Or depression, um, where, like, it's a true neurochemical, neurotransmitter imbalance in your head that like you're prescribed something to help balance that out, right? Like I think that does exist to some degree. It is very amplified, and in many cases we think it's that, but it's kind of just our life circumstances that are in. And actually I would even change that to it's our perception of our life circumstances.
The
Right?
story,
The
the
story.
story, the story about your, because as you were talking through that, I was thinking about a hypothetical scenario of one of our clients or anyone who has kids, has a family, has a job, and I was like, yeah, but it's nothing specific. They're just stressed. If that individual was content with their career development, their body, their health, their family, and their relationships, would there be stress?
Right. Right. Because
Because
yeah,
they'd be
and
working hard, but they'd be okay
yeah,
with their circumstance.
something is out of line,
I don't,
right?
yeah,
So,
I think you could technically, you could always draw it back to not accepting. And it doesn't even have to be, I'm not saying accept, because if you want to lose 20 pounds, this is just an easy example. I'm not saying you have to be okay with everything, but I think if you are understanding that you're taking the actions that you can take to be working towards that change, I don't think it could, I don't think it exists. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, we don't just like, oh, yeah, I'm enlightened now and I'm here. It's fine. But I do think if you dig deep enough, there is something.
Mhm.
And all it takes is getting, like you said, get it out of your head and then figure out what is in your control and that you can take action on and what isn't.
Which needs, again, it goes back to getting super clear because like yeah, there's the world where it's just these kind of two do's right now that are bubbling up, and it's a lack of communication in the house, and like those are things that are relatively pretty easily fixable,
Yeah.
right? But then there are the bigger ones of I hate my job,
Right.
right? Like I hate doing this. I don't even know why I have this job outside of paying the bills. Or my relationship is not the same thing it used to be 5 years ago. And I don't even know how we were ever in love. You know, like those are very big different pieces that like if those are not addressed, everything else is always going to feel more stressful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's totally understandable and easy how you can put that off because those are gigantic life changes and decisions.
Right.
But I do think it's important to at the very least identify it, right? Because then if you can start proactively, because one of the most important quotes I've ever read in my life was action is the antidote to anxiety,
Mm.
right? Like just doing something is always going to help you quiet that mind, quiet the stress. And we have to think about whether our actions help relieve that stress or if our actions promote more stress, right? Because what many of us tend to do is when we are stressed, we either reach for social media, scrolling, eating, drinking, right? Like we do these things that we think is like, I just got to get my mind off of this. I just got to get like, and we think it's helpful. We call it self care in many cases, but self care is not like numbing your mind, right? Self care is choosing to do the thing that's going to improve your life in the long run,
Yeah.
even if it's not the easiest thing to do in the moment, right? And so, like, identifying that, you know what, like, I've been really unhappy with my job, and my boss is always an ass to me. Like, I don't really get along with a lot of people there. Like, I don't even know why I'm there anymore. Maybe it's not something that like you can just quit tomorrow. You know, like like that's not an option for everybody. But just taking the action steps of, you know what, I'm gonna start looking. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna start going on LinkedIn. I'm gonna start just that alone will start making you feel more in control and feel better, right? And from a marriage perspective, starting to have those conversations. Maybe it's marriage counseling, right? Maybe if you're saying like, I don't want to like throw in the towel. Okay. But like doing something about it, I think you will notice a dramatic shift, and it'll be much more meaningful versus going down nose first and into scrolling every single night.
Hmm. Yeah, because once you're in motion with something, there's a concrete, it's out of your head, and there's something to focus on to make progress. And then I think I was talking with one of my clients yesterday, and he's retired now, but he was a lawyer and he had his own firm. And he said, hands down, the most the most contributing factor who was going to have success in their career as he saw them come in was pointing fingers and talking about how other people's actions are not leading to an outcome they want. And he was like, the people that had the most success I'd watch it. It was so clear and distinct, the difference between people that were just constantly searching for what they could be doing next versus
Mm.
you, they, he, she. And one of the tweaks in this training I've been doing is whenever you find yourself doing that, you just replace it with I.
Mm.
So if you find yourself saying, she made me anxious, I made me anxious.
Yeah.
And I think it, when you're down that road, it can be easy to just, well, no, you want to make it their thing, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if it's true or not. Is it serving you? Because you're the one that's anxious.
Hmm.
You're the one that's suffering. So even if it's false that even if you really believe that that person forced you to do something, does it serve you to just say that? Like, how does that impact your life going forward? Because most of the time it's just, and then once again, bring it back to action. Okay, well, if they truly are going out of their way and being incredibly terrible to you, what can you do? Like, can you have a conversation with them? Can you stop hanging out with them? If you work with them, can you have, where's the action? Yeah, I think that dwindling down to action really is going to clear up pretty much anything.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I love that perspective because yeah, like in a relationship, many times, like if you're sitting there and you're perceiving, oh, well, they're just like, they kind of have been super quiet or ignoring me. Like they're not giving me a lot of attention lately. Like they're not really, like they're just kind of in their own world. A lot of times, like if you flip that, well, haven't you also been
Yeah.
doing that? Right? Like, and so it's like,
Yeah.
right, like instead of, and like who knows who started it, who knows where, like
Right.
again, a lot of it comes back to like people just get super busy and then you kind of get into your own worldviews. And so like if you can flip that and remember, okay, well, instead of being mad at, my wife or my husband for not being super emotional and touchy feely and like, instead of being like, why aren't you talking to me and why aren't you showing me attention? Why don't you start by talking to them and start showing them attention? Like, why don't you be the one that's like, hey, you know what? Can we do a date night? I feel like we really need it. Like be proactive on your end and assume that like be very reflective of, is there anything that I could be doing better? And to your point, there are situations where you are trying, right? But like and I think it's very it's totally fair to be honest on that end too and say like I'm constantly trying and they just like do not give me the time of day. They are constantly ignoring me, they're bullying me, they're just gaslighting me, they're like, but be very real, right? Like don't start there. Um and I think in that case, like again, like I think if you can understand like, well, what can I actually do then? Right? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so and here's another tweak that I am going to annoy our clients so much about this going forward, but it's so powerful. And this is for ourselves, but also for our relationships. And I put some of this in the new, if you're a client, we have a new little course that you're going to probably have by the time you hear this, but I put a little bit about it in there. But just going from negations to affirmations is a great way to reframe pretty much anything in your relationships, but in your own self-talk. And this isn't affirmations like I am wealthy. This is just positive statements, basically. So negations are anything that can't, isn't, don't, just what you don't want. And so one of the great examples was I said this earlier, I can't keep living this way. And one flip was, I can keep living this way, but taking it further than that is basically just switch. Anytime you catch yourself talking about what you don't want to be doing, catch it and state what you want to be doing. Because when all you're talking about is what you don't want, it's all you focus on. And
Yeah.
that over time, moment to moment, day to day, constantly. So that being said, if it's a relationship in your life and you go to them and ask them and tell them it's important to you for them to blank, that is so much different than why can you never pick up after yourself? You
Yes.
know, you never pick up after yourself versus, hey, it's really important to me that we keep the kitchen clean because it just stresses me out when I get up in the morning. This definitely wasn't a conversation in my life recently. It's really stressful to me. You know, that's so much different than, oh my gosh, yes. Like,
And like approaching it as a team, right? Hey, can we talk about how we can work on keeping the kitchen clean?
yeah,
Like, cause it's like both people have a stake in it.
yeah,
Both people have a responsibility in it. And even if you do truly believe the other person like has been slacking on it, there's probably things that you still could do better too, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah. And then when you turn it into a question, it is so much more empowering to yourself. It creates curiosity about how to solve a problem. It creates hope. It creates optimism. It insinuates that there is a solution out there
mhm,
versus I can never get consistent with my nutrition.
yeah.
That
Wh
is like the feeling that creates when you say something like that. It just implies you're done for. It's forever.
Yes.
You will never change,
Yes. And
you
you
know?
can. You
Right.
absolutely can.
Yeah. So how can I get consistent with my nutrition? Oh my gosh, there's possibility. It like that is well, it's a 180,
Mhm.
you know?
Which
So
is this is like we've gone so abstract.
I
Like
I
we are
know.
not we are not relationship gurus. So like
Yeah.
those are all I think great like examples, Um but I do think it's important for us to think about how all stress adds up, right? Whether it's workouts, tracking your macros, your relationship, your career, like all stress, whether it's different buckets of types of stress, physical stress, mental stress, it all adds up to this collective total amount of stress. And so if you feel like you're constantly in this fight or flight, constantly stressed out, it's coming from somewhere, right? And our job is to figure out where is that. So like if you feel like I'm so stressed out about tracking my macros and getting my workouts in, it might not be the workouts themselves, right? Like I think we have to look at this over encompassing picture of your total life and understand where is it actually coming from. And that's why I think it's important like to talk about relationships, to talk about your job, because I think that's like that those two, money, right? Like those are the most common stressors that I see within clients for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and let's go over, let's say, okay, you know, all the all the action, all the lists, all those things. All right. Well, there is a financial strain here and I am taking the actions I need to, but it's really hard. I'm working, I'm taking care of my kids. I'm tired, man. And I am working towards the things that are going to move me closer to solving this. But there is stress here still. It's still showing up a lot. I mean, I would love to just cover something you can do because it's a two-way street, right? We can talk, we can think through it, and we can make the list and do all those things, but there's something to be said for going bottom up, right? And
Mhm.
slowing your body down to slow the thoughts down. It's a two-way street. And so I think this is very important that it's not something that you need to do, should do, write down to check the box, and you stay curious about what is helpful for you. Because for some clients, that's been, I want to read a book for 5 minutes before I go to sleep. And that really calms me down. And I think an important point you made is, does it make you feel better while you're doing it? Or does it make you feel better over the long haul after you're doing it? Because scrolling and watching TV feels good in the moment, but it doesn't raise your baseline and restore you for the future? So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, the question is, how do you feel about it 3 hours later?
yeah, yeah, that's great.
Because most of the time you're gonna look back at that and be like, "Why'd I do that?"
Dude, the most fat and gosh, I keep getting off track, but one of the most fascinating, there's a study where they just gave people pagers and throughout their lives, they would just page them and say, rate your happiness right now. And what was fascinating is when people are like watching TV, they are not rating themselves as happy at
Mm,
all, which is fascinating. And what they found is if you're more preoccupied with something meaningful, that's what was more correlated with happiness, which is just interesting.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So my favorites to close this out with just some things to try. I've probably talked about that shock T mat before. It's just a little acupuncture mat you lay on, and I'll lay on that for like 10 minutes in bed before I go to bed. It's amazing. Uh, I love that. But throughout the day, for me, I mentioned this at the beginning, the breath. And it doesn't need to be a specific thing. You don't have to go sit down and do it. It can be literally just paying attention to your breath. Just breathe slower,
Mhm.
extend your exhale. And that's one of the most powerful ways to bring us out of that sympathetic fight or flight state. And just slowing it down is so, so powerful. Uh, I feel like some clients, a hot shower is really helpful.
Mhm.
Just any pattern interrupt in these moments where you normally are reacting quickly and getting just caught up, is going to be really helpful for you. So staying curious and trying those different things is huge. But I would, I feel like the common theme across any and all of those options is quiet is probably pretty good, you know?
Yeah. Unplug,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's another one, like, how many minutes of your day are you truly unplugged,
Yeah.
right? And if you think about that and it's like, "Oh, man," like,
Yeah.
can you get 20 minutes in a row
Yeah.
of unplugged time, right? Like, can you go raw dog your walk,
Yeah.
like, don't bring the headphones in and just go out there. I know it sounds scary to not have a podcast or something playing. Like I feel that too, but there's many times where I'll be out on a walk and it's like a stressful day, right? And I feel it. I feel it instantly. I put on the podcast and I'm not even absorbing what it's saying anymore. It's
Hmm.
just adding, like I'm feeling, that feeling in my neck and the tension in my shoulders. It's just adding to it.
Hmm.
And so then it's like, turn it off. You gotta turn it off. It's gonna feel super uncomfortable for the next 3 minutes when you turn it off because you're gonna be alone with your thoughts,
Yeah.
but you gotta do it, you know?
Dude, and the ironic part is the more you need it, the more it scares you.
Yes.
because I just view it as like a huge bucket. And when you get the quiet time to let it drain, it's so much lighter, but it gets heavier and it makes it so much harder. But then you're just delaying it and you're just building it, or, the rocks in the backpack analogy, and you're just throwing them in. And then you start running from the quiet because you get into this pattern. And it's not even about consuming the information. It's about
Hmm.
avoiding not having something to distract you from the quiet. And it
Yes.
is a ruthless cycle. I feel like I'm in the middle of that right now. Like my walks have been podcast, audiobook, just fill every second. And yeah, it's tough to break, but yeah.
It
Uh,
is. It's I feel that. But
wild.
once you again, like once you can it all goes back to trying to actually recognize, right?
Yeah.
Name it, describe it, write it down. These things become much less controlling, much less scary, much less of a big deal when you can just get it out on a piece of paper or talk about it with somebody, right? Like, but literally this as we were doing this podcast, no joke. This is for real. My wife texted me. She goes, "Can we do a little check-in tonight? I'm feeling a little stressed with the holidays coming up and just want to make sure we have a plan."
Love it. That's
Right? Like right there. It's like I never would have known that,
yeah,
you know? And it's like awesome. I said, "Of course. That sounds great."
yeah,
Like just just do taking any kind of action, even if it's just talking about it, will help, I promise.
yeah. Yeah, and then the ironic part is, using it as curiosity, all of a sudden you just start it's like a waterfall kinda, once you start. I think the biggest shift is, what am I blaming external to me, for something I could be taking action on instead? Like, am I
Mhm.
looking to project blame on something else, and what can I do about it? Like, that just starts a cascade of just that internal investigation of noticing patterns, and slowly but surely, very slowly but surely, it starts to turn around, I guess.
Let me give one real life example too before we close out.
Yeah.
Literally, literally today, I I have a workout that I need to finish because I did half my workout yesterday, and then I have like the accessory movements left today. I also need to go to Costco, or I want to go to Costco because I have I have a pair of pants that I need to return that I do actually need to return those. Like that's I don't want the pants. I want to get rid of them, so I need to return them. But I
You
also
can
want to
keep
get
'em.
I can, but they're I don't want them.
I'm picturing that they're, like, way too small for you.
Well, I accidentally grabbed I thought I grabbed a large and I grabbed a medium. I don't know how it happened. Then I got home and I was like, shit. So it was instantly like I got to return these at some point. They've been sitting on my dryer waiting to be returned for the last like 2 weeks. And then we're out of protein powder. So I want to get that. Right. And I was sitting here. I'm like, okay, I've got time. I was like, can I squeeze both of those in? And then I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have time then to come back and then do lunch and then get the dog. And so I thought about like, well, what's going to bring you more peace, right? Like, what is like the bigger stressor right now? And it's like, you've been putting off this Costco thing for over a week now, right? So let's go do that. You've already got 2 workouts in this week. You can, if you really want to, you can work out later or tomorrow. Like it's not gonna be the end of the world. Even if you miss the workout entirely this week, it's not gonna be the end of the world. You work out 2 or 3 days a week, pretty much every single week. Like you're fine. You know, this Costco thing is gonna be the bigger one right now. And so like, yeah, if we're gonna pick or choose, I'm gonna choose that. And I am pretty confident I'm gonna come back and feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I like that. I think the list making with tasks is so important to keep in mind momentum and not just what's most Like, what's the biggest or most important? Because I always hear people that are like, I do my most important task first thing before I ever look at anything else. I'm the complete opposite. If I have little things that I have not completed, they're going to be popping into my head the entire time I'm working on the big task that takes way longer.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, what are like small things? Another thing, when you're writing that task list down, put the smallest stuff on there. I'll write on my
Yes.
daily checklist, like put my laundry away, because it gets you in that mode and it's addicting to be checking those things off, and you just
Yeah.
get momentum and
Momentum.
yeah, that's huge. And focusing on, what of these things is going to make me more likely to do the other things on this list after I get it done. Okay, let's do that first.
Yep.
So, well, cool. Yeah, that I feel like we got a lot of different topics covered there, categories in relation to stress. So, what do we
Sounds
got?
good.
Oh, if you want more on the word stuff, we're going to be doing mindset workshops going forward, getting much deeper into the word stuff. So super excited about that. If you're a client, make sure you enroll. Should be on your app to register. Really excited. So outside of that, see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.